Okay, so today we're diving into a story about a mind so brilliant it honestly feels like something out of science fiction. We're talking about a man who didn't just dream about powering the whole planet, he actually made it happen. This is the story of Nikola Tesla. You know, when you think about who invented the 20th century, names like Edison or Ford probably pop in your head, right? But what if I told you the person who laid the actual foundation for our modern electrified world is someone whose story is way more complex and honestly, a lot more dramatic? That's exactly what we're going to get into. All right, so at the very heart of this story, you've got this legendary rivalry. But here's the thing. It wasn't just two guys who didn't get along. Nope. It was a clash between two totally different ways of looking at the future, of seeing what innovation could even be. And this is where you can really see the massive difference between them. So, on one side, you've got Thomas Edison. Think of him as the master of the practical. He was brilliant, for sure, but he was all about creating things he could actually make and sell. Then, you have Nikola Tesla. He wasn't just thinking about one little product. He was thinking about the entire system, the whole world it would operate in. He saw the big picture. And believe it or not, for a little while, these two titans actually worked together. Tesla shows up in America, hands Edison a letter of introduction, and gets hired on the spot. But it was never going to last, right? You had Edison, who was all about what makes money right now, versus Tesla with these huge world-changing ideas. It was like oil and water. A clash was definitely coming. And that rivalry? Well, it exploded into what we now call the War of Currents. And let's be clear, this wasn't some little business disagreement. Oh no, this was a full-on, high-stakes battle to decide the operating system for the entire planet. The stakes couldn't have been higher. So Edison had already built this whole empire on something called direct current, or DC. The idea is simple. Electricity flows in one direction. And it worked. But it had this one huge flaw. DC power just couldn't travel very far. It lost a ton of energy, meaning you'd need a power station on pretty much every single city block just to keep the lights on. But then Tesla comes along with his absolutely revolutionary idea, alternating current, or AC. The magic of AC is that the electricity changes direction super fast. And because of that, you could step it up to a really high voltage, send it hundreds of miles with barely any power loss, and then step it down so it was safe to use in your house. This wasn't just an improvement, it was a complete game changer. I mean, just look at the differences here. They're staggering. You've got DC with its short range, maybe a mile, versus AC, which could go for hundreds of miles. You have DC needing this massive, super expensive network of power stations versus AC's much cleaner, more elegant system. Tesla's idea wasn't just a little bit better, it was on a whole other level. It was more efficient, it was more scalable, it was, without a doubt, the future. Now, Edison didn't go down without a fight. He fought hard, even launched this whole nasty smear campaign trying to convince people AC was dangerous. But you just can't stop technology that's this much better. It was inevitable. The world was about to see Tesla's vision win out in a huge way. The big turning point? It all happened in 1893. Tesla, working with his partner George Westinghouse, they land the contract to light up the Chicago World's Fair. And they just blew everyone away. They bathed this whole white city in more light than anyone had ever seen. It was this incredible spectacle that proved, once and for all, that AC was powerful and safe. Then, just 2 years after that, they did the impossible. They harnessed the power of Niagara Falls and sent electricity all the way to Buffalo, New York, over 20 miles away. That was it. The war was over. AC had won. So what was the result of all this? 1. A single, unified grid. An electrical system that could power an entire nation. Think about that. Before Tesla, all power was local. After Tesla, the entire world was on a path to being connected by light. This really wasn't just some small upgrade. It was the birth of the modern world, the world we live in. Everything, our factories, our cities, our homes, it was all going to run on the system that Tesla had fought for. But here's the crazy part. For a mind like Nikola Tesla's, solving one of the biggest engineering problems in human history, that was just a warm-up. Yeah, he was already dreaming about what came next, and it was way more radical. Okay, and this is where the story goes from just incredible to honestly almost unbelievable. The man had just created the system of wires that powered the entire world. And what does he do? He immediately starts thinking about how to get rid of all of them. His grand plan was called the World Wireless System, and I mean, this was breathtakingly ambitious. He pictured a global network of towers that could send not just messages, but actual electrical power through the air. Just stop and imagine that for a second. A world with no power cords, a world where energy was just there, like the air we breathe. For him, this was the key to giving free energy to all of humanity. And that quote right there, it just perfectly captures his incredible self-belief. But, it doesn't sound like arrogance to me. It sounds like the absolute confidence of a man who could see a future decades, maybe even a century before anyone else. He genuinely believed he held the keys to the next chapter of human history. Now, in the end, Tesla's wireless dream, it ran out of money. It was never finished. It was just a vision that was too big, too soon. But it leaves us with this really fascinating question, doesn't it? I mean, look around you. We live in a world of Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, wireless charging, all this stuff. So are we finally, just now, catching up to the world Nikola Tesla imagined for us more than 100 years ago?